YouTube live on Twitter. No one goes to Twitter. And if we get a prank call, we're going to have some fun with that. Whoever the hell it is. All right, what up, everybody? We're live on the Where to Hunt podcast. So it's just kind of a new interesting thing. So it's the community of public land hunting enthusiasts. However, it's also the okayest podcast in the Midwest. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just, pick one.
Your claim to fame is the okayest hunter.
That's right. I live up to it. Ask everybody I've hunted with.
Yep, you do that.
Especially Connor when I was making fuck tons of noise in the woods on accident with my loud Cadillac
tree stand.
You
don't do
stand.
it by accident. That's by habit.
Yeah. Anyway, before we get into the show, we are going to call out our awesome sponsors. And by we, I mean Greg. Greg's going to do it because I'm too lazy today.
He's making me do it.
Get her done.
All right. Sponsors. Backwoods Grind Coffee. Backwoodsgrind.com. Enter code W2H Podcast for 10% off.
And so, but what happens when you go to their website?
According to you, it smells like coffee.
It fucking smells like coffee, man.
But what you did earlier did not smell like coffee.
All right.
Serious now. Game face. Gumleaf USA. Gumleafusa.com. Enter code W2H 2019. I know it's still 2020, but 2019. And that'll give you free shipping. What else you got?
Well, if you like free shipping, then you should do that.
Yeah, you should.
And what else do you got? There's one more.
Yeah, I got a little musket powder.
Is that for your gun, or what do you do with that?
We could put it in our gun. It's got enough pep to it. Musket powder, their claim to fame is completely cover, then add a little more.
What does it say? Completely covered, then add a little more.
So
you completely covered your meat at deer camp with this.
Let's just be clear. It was a venison roast and nothing else.
All right.
Go to musketpowder.com and code is W2H Podcast where you can buy one and get one free.
Mm-hmm. And then the only thing I'll add to that is when we actually do the post-production stuff, we're going to do a recipe of the week. So if you message us through anything, our email, our Facebook, or whatever the hell, a message Where to Hunt somewhere. And if you message us a favorite venison recipe or any outdoor game recipe, all entries get entered to win musket powder seasoning. And then if we call off that recipe, if we draw your name from the entries of recipes, you'll win it. And then we'll share those recipes as we progress through the show. So every week we're going to feature a new recipe of the week. And it's going to be brought to you by musket powder. Camp tested.
Mother approved.
It's beautiful stuff. Who we got on the phone with us today? What's up, Curt?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's always great having another podcaster as a guest because, you know how this goes. You know what's up.
Oh yeah. I'll sit through it. You got to make your money.
Yeah, that's right.
As honest as it is.
Hey, for those of you guys and gals that don't know,
it's free content, so you got to cover your ground.
I'm right. Doing this shit for my health. Well, I am getting drunk.
Yeah. Getting real healthy.
Curt Geier is with the Working Class Bowhunter podcast, the OGs, the original podcast, the ones that I look up to, and you've been doing it for quite some time, man. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you, man. Curt Geier, Working Class Bowhunter, now kind of one of the co-hosts of the DeQuisto Series podcast also. Been podcasting for going on 5 years now and put out one a week and having a good time.
Are you doing one a week or are you doing fucking 10 a week?
Always one a week. Sometimes anything over one is a bonus. Like we put out 3 today from ATA. We're planning on putting out 3 tomorrow from ATA, and then we'll see what the rest of the week holds.
That's kind of nice then, though. Now you're ahead of the game a little bit, so your barrel's been kind of filled. I know you and I have jammed a bunch of times, but we can't seem to get my shit out to the public because technology sucks, and I know how that goes better than anybody, believe me.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it goes really smooth, and then sometimes you just can't win. And, I mean, I still will launch an episode and be like, shit, I messed that up. I got to go back in and fix it. But it's, we're working class, right? We keep that in our name, so every time we mess up, that's our fallback.
That's kind of nice. So I'm not doing anything too dissimilar with the Okayest stuff, right? The Okayest podcast.
No, it's perfect.
And you're part of the intro now, actually.
Great.
You hooked it up at deer camp. I brought around some little like portable mic thing that I bought, and you said it was decent, and I take that as one hell of a compliment.
Oh, yeah, of course, man. Thanks for throwing me in there.
Yeah, we just rolled that out in the last episode. The first episode of the new year, I stabbed myself in the freaking hand with a screwdriver because my computer wouldn't boot like 10 minutes before we were going to record.
Leave it to you to impale yourself.
So, yeah, technology. So, all right, so you've been doing that for 5 years. You got the whole working class crew. You guys got all sorts of fun stuff. You just migrated studios, so you're going to be working on that in February from what it sounded like when we were chatting offline a little bit. That's got to be exciting.
Yeah, man, that's the plan. It's, get everyone together one day, knock out the studio. I mean, it's functional now. Like, I'm sitting in it now with all the equipment and everything. We've been recording several episodes, but when I say like get to redo it, I'm like, tuck in wires, add outlets, redo the walls, soundproof the thing, and make it guest worthy.
Yeah, make it real.
Make it official. I won't feel as bad when people drive 3 hours to come do a podcast instead of them coming to a messy shithole.
What do you have people stay with you actually? Because I've been having more of that where people come to us now, thanks to Gregor here, and. Do you got people that, like, you have a guest room, you're like, hey, you can crash on my couch? Because I'm sure you guys get pretty trashed recording with the working class, and then, like, they're not going to drive 3 hours back.
It's just light beer. It's not Shabin or anything else like
Scotch,
that, right?
The hard stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an option. If you come here and you drink beer and you need to stay, I mean, the studio is, like, kind of set up to be, we got a nice comfy cot, and I got a big screen TV in here now, and make yourself at home, and yeah, of course, that's always an option. Like, sleep in the studio and get comfy, man. But if most times it's not an issue. Like, responsible adults, and it's Steve we have to worry about all the time.
I was asking for a friend,
Steve gets rowdy.
That's funny.
If you come down to record a podcast in studio, you are more than welcome to stay the night, man.
That's good to know, because I don't want to like overdo it, but I would probably. I think if I'm around you guys, if it's anything like when I was around D-Rock, like a different version of me comes out. Like I actually, believe it or not, have some sort of swearing filter applied right now. But somehow when I'm around you guys, it gets real out of control.
Well, I'll tell you this, that when people are normally in studio, especially people that have a drive, we don't do like a 45-minute to an hour episode. Like, most times they're 2 to 3 hour episodes, and we're just having a good time and cutting up what it's all about.
Yeah, that is good stuff.
Give them their money's worth.
It's really about the experience. So tell us about, dude, like, you had, for those that follow along, perceivably like one hell of a 2019. I honestly couldn't keep up, and so I'm really glad that you're here now to talk about it so I can actually understand how much you actually bit off and chewed last year. What has that been like? What did you do? Where did you go? And then we'll wrap up, at the end of all this with your most memorable hunt, maybe from 2019.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, I'll just run through my year quickly, like the highlights, and then whatever you are interested in hearing more details on, we can go there. I had my first kid in May. I had a daughter. Her name's Isla Mae. So kicked off the season. Well, started the trade show season. My wife was a trooper, came like full blown pregnant to that. Had Isla Mae the beginning of May.
Wow.
And then we basically did that, put our house up for sale, sold our house. I left for an antelope hunt in South Dakota. The day I got back, we moved. And then a week later, I left to Oregon on a mule deer hunt with the good people at Loophole Optics. And then got back from that and hunted my ass off for whitetails, and am just now slowing down only to get cranked back up into trade shows again. So I'm not really even moved into my house.
Your wife has got to be
like
the
year,
most
man.
Saintiest saint of all saints that's ever been a saint.
She's pretty awesome. I no complaints. She also, she knows I'm passionate about all this and care about it, and which is why I hustle so hard for it. And it's not like the rest of the year I'm watching football and going to the bar during the week and shit like that. So she gets that it's something I'm passionate about, and she's super understanding of it. And she really likes to eat deer meat, so it all pays off there.
Sounds like we're gonna have to get you some musket powder. But dude,
I'll have to check it out.
That's pretty incredible, man. And the fact that she supports you so you can go do those things. Like, I got one like that too, and I think Greg does too, and it makes all the difference. Us Certainly. Passionate dipshits, like, we chase dreams or in big whitetails, and they just kind of put up with us and make sure everything's okay at home with the kids and all that stuff. It's pretty incredible. So, this is definitely an episode that I'm gonna like tell Holly she should listen to, because
yeah,
I couldn't do this without her, man. Like, she's watching our kids right now every single Tuesday, man. It's a blessing. So, I mean, let's just lay that foundation down. And now that that's been something that your wife's able to do for you, to like talk about some of those experiences. What was it like going with Leopold to hunt? Like, what was the antelope hunt like? What was it like to hunt a different game?
Yeah, man, it was cool. I went on the antelope hunt with my buddies from Buckstorm Production. They have they do like a film production out of South Dakota, and they're hunting everything, like anything you can. And by the way, there's everything to hunt in South Dakota. It's pretty cool.
For sure.
But I met them through the show, through the podcast, and every year for the last 2 years, we've gone on a hunt, and we're going to plan another hunt this year. It's like, hey, why don't you come out and hunt antelope? And I've always been like really fascinated by antelope because there's nothing else that like looks like them, and they almost, for people who don't know what they are, they almost look like some weird African animal a little bit. And I just think they're beautiful, and I was excited to try the meat. And so I went out there and practiced my longer range shots. We were doing spot and stock archery. So I was practicing my 50, 60, 70-yard shots just in case, And I honestly got pretty lucky. We found one first morning in a perfect situation and snuck in on him and made a 50-yard shot and pretty much rolled him in his tracks right there. And it was awesome, man. We had antelope backstraps in camp, and then the rest of the trip we chased another antelope for my dad and got him close. He shot at one and missed, and we just couldn't close the deal. But it was like the full-blown experience of antelope hunting. It was really cool.
Dude, you said it very, like, the fact that they feel like an African animal to you or something like that. That's what I think of too. I don't know why that is.
Well, it's the color scheme, and there is nothing else.
I think it's the coloration.
Yeah, it's the coloration and how fast they can move across the plains.
Yeah, they feel really exotic.
Yeah, the plains and the prairie, the area they call home, they can blend in and disappear, or blend in really well, and all they got to do is turn one way, and you see that big white rump patch in the air. So it's they're kind of a neat animal.
Yeah,
the meat's pretty darn edible too, from what I understand.
Cool. I loved it. I really did. I'd say it's up there with whitetail. I don't want to say I liked it better because I don't want to do that to my golden child of whitetails, but it was good, man. It was really, really good. I'm excited. I still have a bunch of it. We're gonna do a bunch of stuff with it, but I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed that hunt because I learned a lot from hunting in that terrain, because it's not like you have timber to hide through and sneak through and get up on them, and they're wiry sons of bitches. So you're using like every little crease or a bush that sticks up a foot taller than everything else. And it really makes you think about how you move and how you use the terrain to move in on them. So it kind of takes your like ninja skills to just another level. And the next thing you know, it's like you're not even 100 yards away and they're gone. And you're like, I'm not even close. Sometimes they just don't give you the time of day at all.
Their eyesight's ridiculous.
Yeah. Almost felt cool sniping it. Did anything like translate from whitetail hunting to that? I mean, it sounds like not really.
I don't know. I guess if you don't have a general sense on how to hunt with a bow, you're going to be screwed no matter where you go.
Right.
So I think, a little bit of it applied. I'd say like wind direction's huge. Like that would probably be the main thing. Wind for sure. But I mean, it's just like if you didn't really have like the years and years of experience of hunting, you'd have a lot harder time, I think, going out to chase them, because he's certain way to walk, certain way to move, how to check the wind. And, I guess it's kind of hard to explain, but I would say wind would be the biggest thing that carries over, but that's pretty universal no matter what you're hunting.
Makes sense. So one of the comments that just came through is actually from my aunt, Roz. She said antelope remind her of impalas that she saw in Africa. I think that's why I was thinking Africa. I was thinking antelope and impala. They're the same thing, but they're not.
No. They're very similar.
Yeah.
They are quite similar.
I'm thinking of that like springy, boingy, hopping, running, craziness. Do antelope do that? Are they like?
Yeah,
Are they like the Impala where they're jumping like freaking 20 feet in every?
They don't really.
No,
hop.
they don't jump.
They don't jump. In fact, they
don't jump at all.
Yeah, they won't jump a fence. They'll crawl under a fence.
So
they
they're
won't
just a bunch
jump
of freaking lead sacks out there, huh?
It's just the way they are. That's
They,
how they're wired.
Huh. God, could you imagine?
Yeah, they're just built for speed. That's what they do. So what was funny is my buddy Jeremy's up there. He grew up around them in South Dakota, and we're sitting there. We were glassing from the truck while actually my dad and our other buddy Travis we were watching them from the road and filming them. And a goat was going through up to the fence. He goes, "Oh, watch, this goat's going to go underneath the fence," and it jumped the fence, and he came unglued. He's like, "Oh my God, it jumped the fence! I've never seen one jump before!" Like, so it was kind of funny. I'm like, "Oh shit." It was cool though.
That's pretty wild. Okay, so there was antelope, and then what? What was next after that?
I went to Oregon for mule deer, Eastern Oregon.
That had to have been beautiful.
And that was crazy. It was cool. It was quite the experience. I went out to Beaverton, Oregon, which is near Portland. That's where like the Loophole headquarters is, and got a tour of the Loophole factory and got to meet a bunch of people from the company. We did some podcasts on the Loophole Insider podcast, and then did the 5-hour drive east and set up in camp. And I brought my bow and everything. I flew out there, and right when I got there, everyone's like, "Good luck, man. You're going to have a hell of a time with that bow. Like, archery season's over. They've been pressured. They've been, I think there was a couple of gun seasons before that they've been shot at. It's going to be tough." So
sure. But
I was kind of like, shit, everybody's counting me out.
Yeah, but part of you said, "I'd like to defy the odds, and I'm going to chase them with a bow anyway." I know I would.
Yeah, that was the thing. I'm working class bow hunter. I didn't want to be the dude to come out there and whack one with a rifle the first day. It just wouldn't feel right,
That's a good fucking point, Bowhunter. It's in your podcast name. You're kind of like, damn it, I have to. It's not even a choice.
Well, to be honest, like, I think guns are cool and everything, but I didn't have an interest at all in picking one up. But at the same time, I'm there with Loophole. They make binos and rangefinders, of course, and but they're known for their rifle scopes first.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things. It's like I'm not gonna like they put me up on this hunt. I'm not gonna be the dude that's like, nah, I'm not gonna shoot one with one of your scopes. Nah, but you know what I mean. I didn't want to be like that either. So I hunted for half the hunt with my bow and just grinded it out. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I patterned one up. We did a whole podcast on it. It was like a 3-hour recap podcast, but I ended up getting real close to one. I was with, I don't know how much you guys follow fishing, but I was with Brandon Polinick. He's a big tournament bass fisherman. From what I've learned, he's the Michael Waddell of bass fishing. And I learned this on the hunt talking to him because I don't follow fishing. So I'm like, realizing how big this dude up, I kind of like Googled him on the side of my phone to see if he was telling the truth. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's like the biggest fisherman on the planet right now. And but he filmed me bow hunting. I had a buck come in at 40 yards. We patterned him up. It was perfect in this like pinch point, and we were behind a juniper tree. And I drew back, and it was anchoring, getting ready to let it go. And then I had a doe behind us bust, and they all ran off. It's all on film. He'll end up getting me the footage here soon, so I'll end up sending it to you guys. But we had a real close call, and then after that, I was like, "Hey, Curt, you want to try this rifle?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like, I really want to chase it." But like, dude, you might not ever come back to Oregon. It's going to be tough to get in on another one after spooking them. And I'm like, well, let me shoot it first and see like if I can even do it,
Sure.
And so we went back to camp. It was a 6.5 Creedmoor. Shot it a couple times, and I've shot guns before, but it's been, years since I shot a rifle.
Sure.
Like years.
Yeah.
And I've never killed anything with a rifle. And I don't know if he was just trying to make me feel really good, Brandon, but he's like, damn, dude, you can shoot a rifle pretty good. Like, I bet you your archery skills is like bleeding over into that.
Right.
So I think he was trying to prep me up so I felt good about it,
It's the 6.5
but
Creedmoor.
we went after it for like...
Oh, go ahead, I'll let you.
Yeah, yep.
You go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm rambling.
It's a nice rifle to shoot, especially for a guy that doesn't shoot a lot. It's a nice mild cartridge, but it has really awesome ballistics. So it's a great rifle for a guy to pick up and shoot because the recoil's not ugly on it. I mean, you could probably attest to that. Your shoulder probably wasn't hurting too bad after shooting it.
Yeah, no. The first thing I said after I shot it, I was like, "That is smooth." Like,
Yeah.
Nice.
and of course, Browning sent out some badass rifles, and it was like, I don't know how much a rifle it was, but it was top of the line.
Yeah, it wasn't a cheap gun. I
I'm like,
saw
sweet.
pictures of that rifle. It's a pretty sweet rifle. I own an old A-bolt rifle, and I thought it was a nice rifle back then. When I bought it. And that's the next level rifle for Browning is the one you shot, the X-Bolt.
That's freaking cool. Hey, Curt, do you want to take a
Yeah, I
caller?
had no idea what it was.
Do you want to take a call from?
Sure.
It looks like we got Jimmy Civil. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but that's what it says. But it's a 262, so Lake Geneva. But he says he's calling from Pittsburgh, Ohio. Let's bring him in. Well, I haven't done this in a long time. Oh, he dropped off. My bad. Let's call him back. See if we can get him back on. I feel bad. He was waiting there for a
He
little
changed
bit.
his mind.
Yeah, maybe he did.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we fleshed out a prankster. So we'll see if I don't think this guy's a prankster. I see a local area that's good, but every now and again we get some goofs.
I won't honestly know someone's pranking.
Hey, is this Jimmy?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Jimmy, you're live on the Where to Hunt podcast with Eric, Greg, and Curt Geier.
Yeah, I was just listening to that last fellow's conversation about his deer hunt with the bow and mule deer. It just reminded me of this time. I paid all that big money to go hunt with Ted Nugent, right? And I tell you what, I didn't get more than 6 hours in. We were sitting at the camp. Dude tried to give me a reach around.
Oh, look at that! You are a prankster, Jimmy.
No shit.
Fucker.
I didn't hear what he said.
He said he got a
said
reach around from Ted Nugent.
Gave him a reach around.
That's a pretty good prank call.
That's awesome.
Oh, sweet.
Can you believe it? We get prank calls.
Not mad at that.
I'm not mad at that.
Dude, you get a reach around from old Uncle Ted, you take it.
Yeah, Jimmy's getting blocked forever. Fucker.
You get so offensive about
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Don't ruin my shit. Anyway.
Yeah, man. I guess you kind of got to
the doubt,
take that on if you're going to put the number on.
Yeah, that's.
Well, the beautiful thing is I got all of their numbers. So Jimmy, I have your number, man. So I'm gonna be pranking you.
Just post it all.
And yeah, right. I'll just sick the audience on them.
Just register it on like a sex offender awareness Facebook page and let all the people call him and bash his ass.
Son. It's game over for you, Jimmy. It's probably not his real name.
Do it.
It's probably like Gary or something.
Yeah, who knows?
That's what I would do. I would just be like, all right, call in, we'll grab your numbers, and you're really going to regret it.
That's funny. Greg Byers, what's
Hey,
up,
I can
man?
get Steve to have some ideas to post numbers.
Ooh, that's great. We should just give Steve all of the pranksters' numbers that we've collected over the last year and let him do a freaking fun skit on that.
It would be.
That'd be rowdy.
Oh, dude, you would have no idea. Steve would have some ideas on what to do with some freaking phone numbers, man. He's got, something just to get people real good, but that's funny. I'm not mad at that, actually. That's pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
It was.
So they're funnier than Steve. I guess we have our own comedian. They're just out there. It's always a sexual thing. It's like Sasquatch touched me, or like, it's always something weird.
Perfect.
We had one that was like a porno dubbed over talking about donkey punching.
Yeah, but they're like contextual pranksters, so they're always like gonna lead in. Like they're like, oh yeah, I was hunting with some buddies, and then they drop the hammer. It's like, damn it, you little shit. I don't even know where they come from. I have no idea.
Oh, just people finding a new way to entertain.
It's probably
I had the yellow pages.
you're probably getting a pretty good. You're probably getting a weird niche group of. I'm not going to put them on blast on here. We rip on a lot of people on our show, so that's probably exactly who's calling in the prank.
Maybe it was some of your guys. Yeah, maybe it's your fault.
Never know.
Probably is.
All right, so mule deer
Probably
in
is.
freaking Oregon. How was the scenery there, man? I bet you it was incredible.
Oh, dude, it was nuts. Yeah, it was crazy. Everything you'd ever want. It had it all. It was.
What was the weather like?
Pretty much the best way to describe it. What's that?
What was the weather like? Sorry, I totally interrupted you. I'm really good at that.
Yeah, you're excellent at it.
Mm-hmm.
Let the man speak.
It was warm at first, and then it got cold, pretty cold and clear for the most part. And then the last couple of days, it was raining. Like, I killed my muley on the last day of hunting, and it was like I got up that morning, and I had the rifle at this point, and it was just pouring rain, and I'm like, oh, man. And everybody out there that had experience with hunting, like, man, they're going to lay up in these junipers, and we're going to have to find them bedded. And we got a rake in the rain, and we basically hustled in one spot, like the last spot I hadn't been in the unit I had, and we spotted some does feeding down in this bottom, and we were glassing for like 10-15 minutes, and it was me, a guy, Gordy was our guide, we were with Lucas Burt from Newfield, and then Brandon was with us, he was filming, and I had a rifle, and we were sitting there glassing for like, I don't know, 15 minutes, and I'm like, oh shit, what about this buck right here? And we're looking out at like 600 yards with the spotter looking far, and this buck was bedded at like 275 is what he was at. And it's the last day of the hunt. We're glassing him out, and I'm like, man, I don't know. He's not huge, but let's sit and look at him for a minute. And I'm like, should I shoot him? And they're like, dude, that's your call. I'm like, yeah, I know it's my call, but give me a second opinion here, goddammit. And we sat and watched him for a while. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I came all the way out here. I've hunted my ass off. Like, I've never killed a mule deer. And there's one laying right there. I'm like, let's do this, man. Well, I'm going for it. And so it's all on film and everything, the shot and all that. And put it right on 275 and just smoked him, man. And he went up over the hill and crashed right there into the base of a juniper. And it was cool. I got the first year in the mountains and pulled out there and passed him out. It was awesome.
Curt, we're losing you a little bit. Maybe the reception's not great.
Step to the right.
Step to the right. Step to the left.
Any better now?
Oh.
Yeah. Did you like go to the basement? Maybe. You don't have a basement, so
no, I didn't move at all.
You did. Damn it! Stupid technology.
I'm studioed up.
What the heck?
What, so did you not hear any of that, or?
I heard you shot him, but it sounded like a robot was saying it, and then he went up over the ridge, and you got him right there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But it was cool, man. First muley, rolled him.
That's awesome.
So you now have venison.
Is it still crapping out?
No,
Nope,
I think you're good. So you have venison, you got muley, you got antelope.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have to buy any groceries for all of this year, right?
No, I'm good, man. I actually I gave one deer to my brother-in-law, and I donated 2 deer this year to the local food pantry. So
wow, man, that's good. Good for you. That's great to hear. Are you gonna plant like a garden at your new house and like just fucking live off the land or what?
I should. I have a massive garden. I probably could now make a little bit of moonshine and
hell yeah, dude.
Just grow my own vegetables.
Let me come to the Geier Ranch, okay? And now like I have a place to sleep, drink, record, eat. Everything's covered. Like we don't got to leave the reservation. We're off the grid.
Yeah. I have like a mini vineyard in my backyard, which is weird, but like I'm honestly thinking about trying to make wine.
There you go.
That would be fun. That'd be a fun hobby. I don't know where you're gonna find time for that with everything you got going on.
Yeah, I don't.
So that was it. So it was Oregon and it was
South Dakota.
Oregon, are we missing anything?
Illinois.
And back to Illinois? And you got some monster fucking whitetail too this year.
Yeah, man, I had a crazy season, dude. I got my first day in Illinois, I shot 2 does, and then then I chilled out. I got that all out of my system. So then I was buck hunting and shot a really nice 10-pointer first week in November, and then I had a buck that I've known for a few years. Hadn't really hunted him, but he was just a really unique deer. And I had him on this year. He kind of blew up. He put on like 30 inches from last year. I had one of his sheds, and I named him Creepy and got a couple pictures of him, so I knew he was still alive. And the neighbor didn't shoot him, and kind of mapped him out and kind of learned what he was doing through hunting through the season. And I made him move first week of December, and found out where he was at. I did a hanging hunt and shot him 2 hours later. So it was like the craziest hunt ever to go after my target buck and be able to put an arrow in him. And it was cool because my wife knew the deer, because I named him and he was so unique that I was slowly becoming obsessed with him. As much as I would have at the time before I killed him, I didn't want to admit that because I didn't want to be heartbroken if like the neighbor got him or something like that. But I just moved in, it worked out, and I got him. It was really cool.
That's pretty crazy. You were able to execute like that so swiftly.
And you were all mobile most of the year?
Yeah, yep. I hunted out of the Lone Wolf custom gear stand, and I had an XOP that I kind of jumped in between the two. But I shot Creepy out of my Lone Wolf custom gear stand, and as corny as it sounds, I really think like the reason why I killed that deer is because of that setup. It's just you don't have to think twice about going in somewhere and trying a spot.
Sure. And if you have something that's so versatile that fits just about any tree, the sticks, the stand, everything, and you get proficient with putting it up. It doesn't take you long. You learn how to be quiet with it, and you're comfortable with how it feels, and you get used to how it feels. It just makes it all that much easier.
I'll tell you that when I went with Connor in the driftless region, so Connor, aka the Whitetail Drifter, he had a lone wolf with him, and I had this, home bake system my dad had gotten, which is probably like top of line for its time. It's still super light, actually. It's a really light, very large stand. I call it the Cadillac because...
No, we call it the Widowmaker.
Well, I call it the Cadillac, but it's because it's so effing big. Like, I could do jumping jacks on this thing, and so it's great for that reason, but like it's got like... I don't even know what you call it, like this metal clamping setup where once you ratchet around the tree, you like lock it in position. But this metal thing,
it's got your grandpa's safety belt on it.
So I handed it to Connor, and it's like clank, 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 and he is just a great sport about it. But I could tell he was dying inside because this lone wolf was like,
"That's funny, man."
Done, silent. He's like a ninja, and then he carries up mine. He's like, Where's your strap to put it on the tree? I'm like, what strap? It's built into the stand. It's on it. He's like, holy shit.
Nope.
So
that's funny.
For me, like, dude.
What's funny about that too is the stand that Connor has. I had that stand for a while. I let him borrow it before he left for his first hunting trip of the year, which might have been up in Wisconsin or Kentucky. I can't remember which. But that's the third one ever made, I think, and that's actually a pre-production stand.
Prototype?
So, like, it's not. I don't want to say prototype, but it's pre-production. The coating's not necessarily the same. That's what's on them now, and so, that just goes to show you, like, just how much better that system's going to get as time goes on. And then if you paid attention to anything at ATA, like, you can already see the DeQuistos are just a step ahead of the game, man. They're constantly evolving that ultimate mobile setup, and
dude. It seems like he can't help himself. He looks at something and like, it's like a gift and a curse. I would imagine. Like he probably can't turn it off. Like he's got it aimed at hunting.
No, definitely not.
It like seeps into other areas of his life because he'll look at something and be like, yeah, I can make this better, and he does.
Yeah,
it's amazing, man. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's the mentality.
It's that. Yeah, it's fascinating sitting between like Andre and Cody because they both have the same type of like thought process and like kind of way of thinking, but also like so different at the same time that they'll kind of clash in their ideas, but like both their ideas are good. So I'm like sitting in between the two of them. I'm like, I can't say a goddamn thing to either one of these guys because everything they're saying, is right. They're the OGs of tree stands. That Andre invented what is the ultimate platform today of tree stands. He invented the climbing stick. He changed what mobile hunting is.
He's only gone and taken that to the next level. He's improved on it and worked at it and molded it again, and it's better than what it was. The old stuff is still good, and that's what I have is the old Lone Wolf tree stand and sticks. I've been hunting out of it for probably 10, 12 years now, and I like it.
Yep.
It's good stuff, but they've done nothing but improve on it.
Well, absolutely. And with this custom gear setup, like the day I shot Creepy, I knew that buck was bedded in there somewhere. It was the one spot I hadn't really like dove into, and I was like, that's where he's got to be. And then I had some information from the days prior that told me that's where he was at, but I didn't know. I didn't have a a pinpoint on exactly where he was bedded. I just knew when I was going in, I had to be, in the ultimate stealth mode to get in there, hang the stand with, because he could be bedded within 50 yards of where I set up, and where I actually saw him get up, he was probably 100 yards, and then he got up and then bedded probably 75, got up, walked over, and then bedded 75 yards from me, and I watched him bedded for 45 minutes while I was sitting there, and then he got up, and basically, long story short, he came up, I got him within 12 yards. Once I got the arrow in him, the direction he ran was right back to where he was bedded the first time around. So I bet you when I set up that stand, he was probably bedded 100 yards from me the entire time, and then got up. And, I mean, it was a south wind, and there was a shift, so, I mean, maybe that's why he got up and moved a little bit and bedded back down. There's some does in there, too. So who knows what he was actually doing, but he was bedded right there. And, if I would have been in there with a big, heavy steel expanded metal stand, I would have been clanking around and bitching, and you know how that goes.
He wouldn't have come out. He'd have gone the other way.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those right. mumbling under the breath of my own, talking to myself. Motherfucker, God,
dude, I heard you from 100 yards while I was walking the cattails, swinging at that thing.
Oh, dude, yeah. Okay, so Greg and I did a hunt on a conservancy property together, and I brought that thing, and I was like, I didn't even get up in this tree. I was like at the crest. I was only 6 feet high, but it was something.
You didn't need to be up that high from where you were at.
But it was like, I need something different. Homage to this tree stand. It's got me a lot of trees. It's great, but it's this barrier mentally of like, damn it, I don't want to set up. And so what I'll do is I'll just end up hunting off the ground, which then I'm not getting the advantage. I have
to take the filter off and tell you what I really think of that tree stand.
Well, no, careful, my dad listens. You know how many deer he's killed out of this thing?
You know what? I see your dad hunting the ground more than I see him hunting a tree.
He hunts a tree every other time he hunts rather than gun season. But go on. No, let's hear it.
No, it's fine.
What do you got to say? What do you got to say about Chuck's stand?
It's a relic.
It is. Yeah. But I could probably do something with some Slayer tape, right? Like I think that could make it go a long way.
You're gonna need like. Honestly, yeah.
I'm telling you, it's light. It's light as can be. It weighs nothing for as big as it is. But whatever. Like I'm not trying to defend it that much. It's just.
It's an old.
It's just a barrier. Then
it's an old API. So I had the bigger version of that, the Baby Grand. The Baby Grand. Yeah, so that thing, you'd take a T-screw.
Oh, dude, I know what you're talking about. So does it have that T-handle that you screw into the tree and then set it on the T-handle?
You should.
I have 3 of those stands, and they're fucking terrible.
They're awful. Like, I literally, the first time I set it up, I damn near fell out of the tree. The thing spun.
But yeah, like it's attached to the
I
stand
still had
itself,
it,
right?
but it still moved, and it wasn't. And this is before I even thought of wearing a safety harness or anything. I think it was 14 when I bought that thing. Yeah. Not good.
And then I was a cheap port. I decided to go back to school at 25, so I was a college kid at 25, and I bought I went to Menards and I bought a couple big dog tree stands for $15 a pop.
Oh yeah.
And those things are no offense, Big Dog. I don't think you're a sponsor anytime soon, but not the greatest stands. No. I just did them because they were cheap.
No, they're a death trap
out there, but they were. There were some sketchy ass stands, dude. So I'm the okay setter.
Yeah, they are
sketchy. I really have not had a lot of advantages based on the equipment that I've used.
It's a good thing I got an extra lone wolf you're going to borrow this weekend.
See, that a girl. Way to take care of me.
Take one for the team.
Uh-huh. He's like the best date ever. I mean co-host. That's what I mean.
Dad ever.
There you go. Careful now. You're going to let all your secrets out.
No kidding.
See, we got a real good thing going here, the two of us.
Yeah.
Pour me some more scotch while you're at it.
Really?
Well, maybe. It's only... So I made up a new word last week. I called it Mondoosday. Because Mondays don't end for me, because I do this thing for the app now, and then I do this on Tuesdays. So it's just a Mondoosday. It's all one day to me.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm talking about, Curt.
That's funny.
All for the greater good.
Yep.
That's right, the greater good. I'm surprised D-Rock hasn't called in yet. He said he got to put his kids to bed and all that stuff.
I'm surprised no one's Brent called in for a second time around.
No, dude, he can't hide that Mexican accent. That wasn't him.
I think I scared everybody off when I told them I was going to put their phone numbers on a sex offender awareness page.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hope so, because not only have we not got any prank callers, we've also gotten 0 callers.
Make sure you
People
do
hate
that.
me, apparently.
Make sure you
People
do
hate
that.
me, apparently. Hopefully there's a little more people watching. I don't know.
There's like
When we're
50
done with the
people or
show,
something.
we're gonna have Curt say that exact same thing all over again without
Yeah.
cracking
I'm
up
just
like
gonna
as
take
serious
that
as
and
you
rip it
can.
as a recording and
We
play
are
it on
gonna
every
rip it. It's
episode.
gonna get played right at the beginning of the episode. We are gonna take your number if you crank us and put you on the sex offender website.
If you crank us?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I hope we don't get cranked. I don't know what that means.
pranked,
but
whatever.
sounds dirty.
It is
Uh,
Exactly what a sex offender would do.
dirty. See,
right? So now this is what happens when the scotch and the bush lattes start flowing. Okay.
Dude, I'm not even having a beer on this, to be honest.
Well, I feel like you can
You
put us on
ATA.
hold and you can go grab one.
No, I don't even want to. ATA show was last weekend, and we went too hard, man. We went way too hard.
It's a big show.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's just, you see all your friends that you don't get to see all the time. Everybody's in one spot, so it's just kind of overwhelming fun. And then we have Lincoln, Nebraska is doing an outdoor show this coming weekend, which we're going to have a booth at. So I got to save up for that,
That's right. You got some keep some gas in the tank.
and you'll be up.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because after that, we have February and then March cranks up, and then we have like pretty much a whole tour of like deer classics and outdoor shows that we're doing, and we're having a booth there. So if you're going to be at any upcoming shows in the Midwest, we're going to be there with Lone Wolf Custom Gear. So
See, I didn't even have to ask the question. You're already on it.
Good job. Those shows aren't cheap to do either. Like, you got to pay to be there. You got to lug your shit out there. You got to set up the booth. You got to commit your time. You got to be physically present the whole entire day. You guys are recording podcasts while you're there. Like,
Yeah, and then you got to expect.
Yep.
You got like when we chatted at Deer Fest up in West Bend. You had the whole crew up there, so then you're waiting. You might be waiting for some of those guys to get there. Everybody has jobs and has to work and trying to get places. So that's another thing to kind of somewhat be accountable for them guys.
yeah, it's quite the challenge. So, like, for example, like this Friday, the show starts at 3 p.m, and not all of us can take that many days off work because we have 10 shows that we're doing this year. So Eric is going up in the morning. Eric and Steve are going up in the morning, setting up the booth. And then me and a couple of the other guys are getting off work and then driving to Nebraska and then meeting everybody at the show. And then, rock it Saturday, Sunday, drive back Sunday afternoon. And then we got a few weeks off before the Iowa Deer Classic out in Des Moines. And luckily that one's pretty close, but it's the same gig, leave.
it's a big one.
Either we get the day off and we go after it or we go after work and set up and enjoy the show. I mean, it's a ton of work, but they're also a lot of fun.
Which one's bigger, the Iowa one or the Nebraska one?
I would bet Iowa might be bigger, but
But Nebraska's brand new this year, so I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm hoping for a really good turnout because it's brand new. But we'll see, man. Of course I want as many people there as possible. It's always more fun that way, but Iowa's probably the bigger one because it's one of the first ones in the Midwest that kicks off.
Doug Hood just said, from what I understand, Pedialyte comes in a powder form nowadays.
Yeah, I was drinking Pedialyte at ATA. I actually posted a picture of me laying down in the big time booth, and that looked like a joke, but it was for real.
You pushed her that hard.
I was miserable. Well, yeah, man. ATA is crazy. It's
I was there a couple years ago.
We learned
it's
our
a shit show.
Oh yeah, we've done that before. We've learned our lessons, but we just don't learn. We're dumb. But you're out there with your buddies, you're hanging out, and some people you only get to see once a year. So next thing I know, it's 3 to 5 in the morning when I'm getting back to Airbnb and getting up 3 hours later to podcast all day long and do it all over again.
God, that's brutal. So we'll I'm going to ask you a question from one of the listeners here. Scott Clark asked.
No, Scott Clark, go to hell.
Do you already know? Is he just poking at you? Is that not a thing, or what the fuck?
Yeah, no, he's joking with me because every time he gets on something, we have this passive aggressive sarcasm where we'll be like, oh yeah, you couldn't hunt there unless you could, I don't know, we'll say make up shit on the fly, you got to kayak in 14 miles and set up your, shit like that. So I read that as you're getting ready to say it. And I'm like, I knew it.
That's pretty funny, man. Well, you told us about your
he's
2019
good
hunts,
shit, man.
and you've been around the country a little bit. You're gearing up for trade show season. I mean, like, I don't know, man. I can't remember if you've shared your most memorable hunt before. I'm doing really something very special with the memorable hunt. So like when I wind you up and release you to tell me your story, we're not going to say a word. I'm just going to let you tell me your story. But if you don't have one for 2019, I want the juicy details. I want the frickin' like, it doesn't have to be the kill. It could be some frickin' weird component of the hunt or the traveling or the scenery or the whatever it is. If you don't have one for 2019 based on everything you did, or if you want to recap it, you could always go on to some other.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've had all my hunts. I remember I love them and everything like that. But this year, the buck I call Creepy, he kind of took it over, and I can go into more detail with like some of my history with him. But that definitely right now is, I think, I was actually thinking about that. It's like one of my favorite bucks and one of my favorite hunting stories. And it is like, I guess I can go in detail on that, but the South Dakota hunt was just such a new experience. And that was more of a relaxed type hunt. Like, didn't have to get up there and get out in the dark because, you're spotting stock. So you look for them and then you make your move. But, and Oregon, of course, was memorable because of just how different it was for a guy from Illinois to be flown to Oregon and thrown out there in that crazy terrain. But, I don't think anything right now beats that hunt I had for Creepy and some of the history I had. I'm guessing him to be 4.5, but I had some guys that came over and saw him the night I got him back, and they're like, there's no way in hell this buck is 4.5. So from my knowledge, I've known about him for 4-ish years. I'm going to have him aged. I wouldn't be surprised if he was 5 or 6.5, but if someone was like, hey, throw a number and throw $100 with it, I'd be like, he's 4.5. But I had two years ago, I was walking through the woods with my bow and I saw this buck walking and I was like, oh man, I'm like pretty close to that thing. So I did like a little grunt with my mouth, like kind of to see what would happen if he would even do anything, like kind of messing around, just out of curiosity. And this buck like looks my direction and starts kind of meandering my direction. And I'm like, what the hell? And he was like real weird looking. And his rack was kind of weird and wavy. And I pulled out my phone and started videoing, and he's like walking straight to me. And I'm like, okay, he's going to see me and stop and run away. But he kept walking and kept walking and kept walking. I'm like, oh shit, this thing's going to walk right into me. And he gets like probably 7-8 feet from me, and he stops. And like, you know how when a deer stops, they'll kind of like stomp and then they'll like move their head to get you to kind of move. Mm-hmm. And he did that. And the way he was acting rutted out and kind of almost like something was wrong with him. And his rack was just weird, and his eyes, like he was possessed in a way. That sounds really dumb. I'll send you the video. I have it all on video. And he gets really close to me, and he did that stomp thing. He's looking at me, and I basically said, okay, that's close enough, and like waved my bow at him and spooked him off. Because I'm like, if I'm going to go, that'd be a cool way to die, like that'd be the cool story. Like, yeah, you got mauled by a buck. But I wasn't trying to have it happen by a 2-year-old buck. You know what I mean? So I spooked him off, and then I ended up getting some trail cam pictures of this buck. And honestly, if he would have been any other deer, like just a normal rack and normal shape to his body and his look to his eyes, I would have basically forgot about this deer. But because of like the story of that happening and how weird he looked, and his eyes were like blacked out, his head and his hide was like weird colored. So I honestly thought he was an inbred, which sounds crazy, but I didn't know like what to make of it. Like, I could pick that deer out of a crowd, no antlers, just by his body, just by his look. And what I did, I ended up naming him Creepy. And everywhere I would go, I would see that deer pop up. Like, but he was a small buck, so he wasn't really like worth talking about. Like, I wasn't going back and telling like all my big buck killer buddies about him. Like, I told them the story and shit like that, but basically showed my wife, and she's like, that deer's cool. That'd be cool if that could be my first buck, you know, because she was wanting to get into hunting at the time. And so I basically kind of forgot about that deer after that season. And then the following year, I got a few trail cam pictures of him, and he got a lot bigger. Like, he was kind of the deer that would basically at this point would be like, man, if he comes by, like, I'm going to have to think about it. You know, that might test me a little. And I actually didn't see him on the hoof all season. I probably got four pictures of him hardhorn, a couple of them in velvet, and then I found his shed. And it was like, you know, he still kept that wavy, knotty, weird look to him, to his antlers. And he kind of held that weird look to his body, too. Like, he was very easy to pick out of a lineup. And so I'm like, well, Creepy's back, and he's a little bigger, and that's pretty cool, you know? So he's on the radar now a little bit. Like, what's he going to turn into for what I thought he would be a 4-year-old? And, you know, I'm doing all these other crazy hunts and moved and have a new baby, so I'm a little distracted. And I get back in the season, check my trail cameras that I had out over the summer, and there's Creepy, the same spot. But this year he's big. He's probably got 30 inches on from last year when I would have been like, ooh, I might shoot him. That would be a tough one. But this time on his right side, he's got a split 2 and a split 3, but he's still got the wavy, knotty, like almost like half melted look to his rack. He's dark chocolate at this point, and he's got that heavy
Is he
body,
still acting
like,
creepy?
buck look to his body. You know, I didn't think so. He like was starting to look more normal, but like it was no doubt him by the look of his body and his head and everything. It was just, there was no doubt it was him.
Well,
And I'm like, wow, like he's really exploded into this really cool buck. Let's see if I even spot him, because the year prior, it wasn't like I was going to try and hunt him down. You know what I mean? It was more like if by chance he walked by, I'd have to think about it. But this year I'm kind of like, shit, I got to start thinking about going after this deer. And then didn't see him, and I had very sporadic trail cam pictures of him. Shot my first 10-pointer in November, and still hadn't seen Creepy up to this point. But what's funny, I went back and checked some trail cameras that I kind of overlooked, and there's 3 pictures that I have pictures of Creepy in, and the 10-pointer I shot. So the 10-pointer I shoot in November is in 3 pictures together, like first week of October, with Creepy while I was in Oregon.
What's the other one's name?
And I didn't name him. I didn't really he was just a nice 10-pointer, you know. I don't really name deer, man, unless they're real unique. Because then I sound like every other dude on the outdoor channel calling it
the other one's name is Vanilla.
10 or whatever the
we'll
fuck.
Just call him Vanilla.
Vanilla. Yeah, Vanilla. Okay, we'll go with that. He's a great buck, man. I got both the racks sitting in here side by side, and you know, he's close to the size of Creepy. He's just not as he doesn't have the same, like, all the character and all that. Mm-hmm. Tickled to death. I'd shoot him all over again. He's 150, like a real solid 10-pointer. Really, really happy with him. But I had an encounter, so going back, it was Black Friday. So I went out the same spot that I had shot my 10, and I look over out in the field, and I see this buck coming across, and I have my truck parked over there, and this buck is walking towards my truck. And from a distance, I see him. I'm like, dang, he was probably like 600 yards, and I could see the silhouette of his rack. I'm like, ooh, that's a nice buck. Like, that buck if that buck's a 10, he could be Boone. And I put my binos up, and I'm looking. I'm like, is that Creepy? Holy shit! Like, then he comes straight. He's walking to me, and he's still like 300-400 yards out. But what was crazy, he's walking straight at me. Then I have like complete confirmation, like, that is Creepy. There he is. But between his rack, as he's walking to me, my truck is parked in the background, like just perfectly lined up between his rack. So it was kind of like just a weird thing to see. I don't know. It was just something I didn't expect to see. Like, hadn't seen that buck in a year. was going to start thinking about him, and then there he is right by my damn truck.
It's one of those weird signs.
He
wanted to
worked
go
towards
for a
me.
ride in it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. It was weird.
He did, right?
That's a nice truck right there. I think I'm going to take a ride in that truck later today.
Yeah, if I'm going to die, I'll go for a ride in that truck. And then so he worked his way out in the middle of this field. Right. He worked his way out in the middle of this field, and there was some does and some smaller bucks in there, and he basically bumped every other buck off there. And I hit him with a grunt and snort wheezed at him, and he got interested and kind of did the look and kind of calmed down and went back to going to check some does. And so I threw another snort wheeze at him, and he stopped and looked again, and I'm like, man, he's real interested in this. Like, he's definitely not going to put up with it one more time if I can time it right. He went back to chilling and started to get interested in the does again. I hit him with another snort wheeze, and he just like, that's it, came beeline straight towards me. He came to, at this point, of course, he's going to circle downwind because he wants to smell who the hell's yelling at him. Comes in at 35 yards facing me, and I can't shoot him, and he winds me and busts me and blows off into the timber. And I honestly thought that was going to be the last time I saw him. Like, it was just, I was like, all right, that's done. We'll have to pull back and regroup. I didn't want to bust them onto the neighbors during firearm season. So I kind of came home kicking my own ass a little bit and kind of, and honestly, I was trying to make myself feel better. I'm like, well, if he does what he has done in the past, next year he'll be a super giant, if he keeps on this trend, Well, it would have been, I think, December 8th. December 8th, I basically went in. I got a trail cam picture of him the day before, and I was really sick, wasn't feeling well. Went out hunting. Actually, no, scratch that. I lied. I was at a Christmas party and got a trail cam picture of him, and I was sicker than a dog. Didn't even want to go hunting. Got up, slammed, took some Sudafed, slammed a giant cup of coffee, and just forced myself to go hang a stand where I thought he was at, which ironically enough is where he came out of the day that he ended up busting me. So he kind of gave away like where he was living, and I was just kind of like timing out like my move, which was going to be after firearm season, because I didn't want the neighbors to shoot him. Well, when I got a picture of him, the reason why I was at this Christmas party and was kind of chilling, it was second firearm season in Illinois. So I was just hoping, stay out of there, don't push him over to the neighbors, and we'll just be okay. If he gets through second firearm season, we'll be all right. So I throw my orange. You can firearm hunt. You can bow hunt during firearm season if you have a firearm tag in Illinois now. That changed a few years ago. So I throw all my orange, do the hanging hunt while I'm feeling like shit, and then that's earlier when I mentioned how he popped up out of his bed and then bedded back down, watched him for a little bit, and then I had some does working down the draw. So the does are working their way into the wind. He gets up to check the does, not interested, and he like completely dropped his guard, walked to me with the wind at his back, which almost never happens on a buck like this. And he came into 12 yards. I drew back, and I did a hanging hunt straight up, like didn't trim nothing. I had two shooting lanes. The main lane I set up for, he shot right past it, didn't even go into it, and I had like a 2-foot shooting lane, and I grunted at him and stopped him and shot him at 12 yards, and he ran off, and I heard him. I thought when I heard him crash, it was getting dark, so what I did is I got down, and I went over like just 10 yards, found my arrow that was broke off my lighted knock, and I look up, and on this hillside, which is where he was bedded, I can see his just belly shining way out, like probably 75, 80 yards from where I was standing. And I basically called my wife and was like, "Creepy's dead. Like, it's done. The book is closed."
Dude, that's so crazy.
Into the chapter, and
this is a lot like a book. Like, this is like the book is done now. Like, so sorry. That's exactly what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah. It was, dude, it was nuts. Like, it was one of those things I couldn't believe it because I was, becoming obsessed with this buck and just so curious, like, what does he do? I haven't seen him. I don't know where he is. Like, what do they do? I can't, you know what I mean? It's like, if you don't see him, where are they living? Where's he bedding? What's he doing? So it was cool to kind of figure that out. And then it was also cool. I was messaging all the guys from the podcast crew, which I call the WCB OGs. And I was messaging them like play by play, like, he's bedded. Oh my God, he's bedded over here, messaging him that. And then the next message was, he's dead. And I get up to him, and
he's dead.
And I did in Facebook Messenger, you can do a video chat, and I think like 8 people can join the video chat. And then I just basically got up on the video chat and showed them. And we have like the team Hang and Bang. I got on in our private group there and did a live video, like just showing them. And I just sat there and stared at them for probably 45 minutes before I even moved them. It was incredible.
So cool, man. Wow. That is like a book saga. That's like
crazy, man.
So there's very few that can share a story like that where you're following a buck that many years.
Yeah. I was really, really, really proud to do it. And it's like I didn't really hunt him last year, it was just one of those things. If I see him, and this year I got, it was like, oh shit, I do want to go after this deer. And, just as the season went on, there was so much mystery around him that I was just becoming obsessed with him and wanted to get after him. But he's a stud, man. He's a 155-inch mainframe 8 with a split 2 and a split 3.
Very cool.
It's awesome. You got to post them in the comments just for those folks that had popped in here. They can take a look at them. Are you going to put them up in the new studio?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, either in there or out in the living room, man. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to mount both the bucks I shot this year, and all my buddies are trying to get me to do a pedestal for them, like a floor pedestal. And because his rack is so wavy and knotty and just really just full of character and really unique, I had some people suggest to do like a real crazy knotted and twisted like wood base, and then putting the mount on there to kind of like, show his rack off a little more with it.
A pedestal will put it at the right height. I actually have a buddy that builds pedestal mounts for a taxidermist around my area, and he does pretty interesting stuff.
Maybe I'll have to get in contact with him, man. I haven't decided. I'm kind of like the guy that's like, well, if I can't have too many pedestals, because what am I going to do with that 200-incher I kill in 10 years?
Or next year, for that matter.
Right, I'm just trying to think like big all the time, or as big as I can. But with a story like that and such a deer that's just so unique, it's I think it's definitely justified the space.
Sure,
that's cool, man. I'm happy for you. I think you definitely deserve it. You've put in the time, you put in the effort. Like you've done something great with the Working Class Bowhunter brand. You've inspired so many hunters. You did the shoot. We got to hang out last summer. That was a ton of fun. Like. You've just done so much. I think it was a great year for you. I hope, and to think that 2020 is going to be just as big, if not bigger. If I know you at all, I think it'll be bigger.
Yeah, especially if you continue doing.
Well, thanks, man. But yeah, man. Yeah, thank you. But I don't know how this year gets topped. I really don't. It's
best. You say that now, man.
Life,
just
best
wait.
Year of my life.
Just wait. I thought that the last 2 years in a row, and every fucking year it gets weirder. More happens. So
yeah. I mean, more doors for opportunity open up. Like the more people you meet, the more you grind and stay consistent at what you do. And if you just keep at it, I mean, I could have the best year of my life next year, but I'm not really thinking about that right now. I'm still on cloud, I daydream every day about last season.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I appreciate you sharing that story with us and taking time out of your busy-ass schedule to be on the show, especially coming out of the ATA and hanging out on the Where to Hunt podcast. We got to get you here in our studio. We got to come to your studio. I think that's going to happen this year. At least one of those ways is going to happen. Maybe not, if not both. So we'll stay in touch. But, dude, let people know how they can get in touch with Working Class Bowhunter, just in case, we have some crossover listeners that maybe haven't caught you yet. Which I would be shocked. It's got to be the other way around. No one knows about me. Everyone knows about you. But what's the website? How do people listen? Where should they go? What should they be doing? How can they support you and the brands you support, etc.?
Yeah, workingclassbowhunter.com or everywhere podcasts are available. And if you really want to support us, the best way is just buy a shirt or a hat from our website. We have all our we have a little online store there, and just check us out. That's good enough to support us.
I got your freaking bottle opener that I use on the daily here. I got hats, which I think Greg's worn several times. I got the, you can't trip into 150 class. We got the koozies, dude. We're more working class decked out here at the Where to Hunt podcast than Where to Hunt decked out. We love you guys.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Show. Thanks so much. I'm gonna end the live session. Everybody
I really appreciate it.
That tune in, dude. Thanks so much for checking us out and watching along. I'm gonna end the live session, and this will be up in podcast land tonight, this evening. So it'll just be a little while before I get it all buttoned up and all that stuff. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.